This story doesn't start in the world of My Hero Academia. It actually starts in the world of Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball and everything to know is going to happen the same way. We have the Universal Tournament, the tournament that is bound to stop everybody, the tournament that is going to eliminate a ton, we're talking, of these, well, universes. Giant, absolute, just, people, filled with people and filled with warriors alike. These universes are being threatened. These universes are being told that it's life or death. And this tournament is exactly that. And there's one warrior that stands among all of the rest. His name is Jiren. Jiren, a true warrior, a warrior of justice and power that seems to be endless. Jiren would stand tall in this tournament, but he would still lose. It's crazy to think that someone of insane proportions like Jiren could lose a tournament like this, but with people like Goku, people like the Saiyans who break and shatter their limits, then frankly it should be no surprise that he would fall short. But this time, this version and this occurrence would lean to Jiren's erasure. Jiren's erase from all of universes and all of the Dragon Ball universe. As he's erased, though, feels this sensation, a sensation of, well, being transferred to somebody else. His power, mindset, kind of his way of life in a way, would be transferred to somebody in a totally different universe. Not just actually universe though, it's like a totally different multiverse. This transfer would begin, and as it begins and as it trails to this new person, a little baby by the name of Izuku Midoriya, it would then stop. Everything that is Jiren and once was Jiren is bestowed within Izuku, but Jiren would wake up. He would be alive once again in his universe, standing behind people or standing around people like Toppo and many others like Dispo and his Pride Troopers. But it seems that a part of him has been transferred to somebody else in a different multiverse and a different universe at that. Izuku Midoriya would be donned with the power of Jiren the Almighty. Jiren himself, the warrior that is among the greatest of them all. Izuku would be born without a quirk, but would be bestowed the power of the usage of ki, and also the motivation to train beyond your wildest dreams. Izuku would, at a young age, would begin massive interest in martial arts, learning, fighting, and all of the above. He would never, ever, ever take disrespect lying down, and on top of that, he would make sure that all those who are basically bad people would understand that there are consequences to said actions, and there are consequences to the actions that they decide to make. In which, when Izuku is young and meets Bakugo would try to bully him for not having a quirk, but it would quickly backfire on the young future hero because Izuku would beat him down bad. To the point that, well, Bakugo is pretty scared of Izuku, just to a certain extent, at least when they're on their own and by themselves. He believes that he doesn't want anything to do with Izuku, that if he's kind of, does his thing and tries to make fun of him again, that things will go bad once again. And that's the correct assumption. Izuku will beat him down once again if he tries anything kind of dumb, and if he tries anything to actually hurt other people. Izuku is very prideful. Izuku really believes in a sense of justice, but also believes that true power is all that matters. That power itself is the only answer to stopping all villains. And that's exactly what he begins to kind of build off of. Izuku believes that true power, understanding, and also sacrifice is kind of just the way to approach being a hero, and the way to approach saving as many people as possible. And that's what he does. He continues to train, continues to fight, and continues to learn. As he learns, trains, and fights and gets stronger and stronger, well, there's really nobody out there that can stand up to him. A quirkless teenager that is beyond strength itself, a quirkless teenager that his aura and presence when walking into a room would shatter the souls and hearts of anybody if they dare step in front of him and they dare step to actually try and defeat him. Izuku builds this persona that he is a true warrior, builds this persona that he is strength. And Izuku would go throughout middle school and everybody would either admire him or fear him. There was no in between. Some would admire him and want to be very similar to him. They would want him to create a group known as the Pride Troopers, the group known as these people, these heroes that were going out to protect and would channel all of their protection through strength itself. And that's what they are. They're going to be good doers. But Izuku himself would kind of ignore this. Izuku doesn't really want much to do with these so-called Pride Troopers. He doesn't want much to do with these people that are trying to follow him and make him out to be some sort of hero. Izuku doesn't want that. He wants to be a hero and he wants to channel all of his power to being it, but he also doesn't want to deal with other people. He doesn't want to have to deal with these other people and also their other kind of problems, situations, and their wants and desires. He doesn't want to deal with any of them. But soon the last day of middle school would arrive, and it would be time for him to basically show the entire class that he wants to get into UA, and there's nothing that's going to stop him. And that's the truth of it. There is literally not a single thing that's going to stop him. Izuku would walk through that tunnel that same day, would walk through the tunnel that initially or regularly would change his life. But this time around, yes, it may change his life, and yes, it may show a different side of Izuku, but this is just basically a showing of what he can do. Because underneath that bridge, in that tunnel, what comes is a sludge villain. The sludge villain comes barreling out, and Izuku would watch and stare at him. The sludge villain would threaten him, would tell him that he's going to take his body, would say this and say that, but Izuku would tell him to stop. That this choice that he's about to make is about to be the worst choice that he could ever make in his life. More than being a villain, more than being a criminal. Stepping to him is the worst choice. And silence would then ring out, and the sludge villain would laugh, thinking the kid is insane. Yeah, he's big. Yeah, I mean, he looks pretty sizable, and he looks like a pretty big dude. But come on now, there's no way he's just some scrawny, some slightly built teenager, right? That's what he is. Compared to the sludge villain, he's tiny. I mean, he's big for human standards, but come on. There's just no way he can handle and stand up to him. In which Izuku would shake his head, and the sludge villain would come charging in, and Izuku would just stare at him. And the sludge villain couldn't even see, but Izuku would throw a plethora of attacks at him, and in an instant, the sludge villain would shatter to pieces. Izuku would tell him to stay down, as the pieces would just be laying there, more or less just defeated. And Izuku would make it very clear that he stood no chance in the first place, and that it was honorable that he even tried. But truly, a villain like himself, he should give up on villainy and go back to being a normal person, or go live in the sewers forever. But before the sludge villain could really even be fully captured by Izuku, it seems that someone else has now arrived. All Might himself has basically come onto the scene and sees that the sludge villain has already been defeated, and even sees that, well, the person who did it. Izuku stands there and says that it's been a pleasure to meet All Might, but he's going to have to leave. He hands him a bottle full of the sludge villain and tells him that he assumes that All Might will have an easy time disposing or basically putting him behind bars. In which All Might nods his head and says that the kid did a great job, that he should basically next time maybe just run away. But Izuku shakes his head and says that if he has the power to do something, then he might as well do it, because those who are powerful are the ones that are the only ones that matter in terms of being a hero. Power is what matters. In which All Might looks at him and says, Yeah, that is true. Power does help quite a bit. But there's a lot to it. There's a lot more to being a hero than just power. Saving and helping people is important, in which Izuku says, of course. But with more power is a guarantee that he can save everyone. All Might would then tell the kid that he has so much potential. And don't squander that potential. And he's not saying that he is squandering it, but just don't. Just don't squander it. Take on the responsibility of being a hero. Save as many people as possible and do good. Just do good. That is the number one thing. In which All Might jumps off with the Sludge villain, and Izuku would watch him and would watch the idol that every single person idolized and looked up to jump away. Izuku would head home and he would begin meditating. He'd begin thinking about everything that All Might said. Everything. Thinking about caring, thinking about loving, thinking about basically saving people with passion, with help, with a sense of rescue and justice, not just power. He thinks about it and thinks on it for a little bit, and as he thinks about it, he gets a flash through his mind, a flash of himself shooting a ki blast or a blast of some sort that he already knows how to do, by the way, at a giant or a stadium of people that he doesn't know. But as he shoots it, someone jumps in front with white hair and slaps the blast away, and yells toward him that he will never forgive him for trying to do something like that. But then he would go right back into it. He would jump right back into everything that he was seeing and everything that was happening. He would realize that that must have been a memory or a weird kind of thing that he saw. He doesn't know how it happened, what happened, or what connection to him it has, but he saw it. And whatever it was definitely something to think about. Izuku would continue on with his training for the next 10 months. Izuku's goal is to be as strong as humanly possible. Yes, there's going to be restrictions, and yes, there's going to be some things that he may not be amazing at, but he's going to do everything in his power to be the best. And that's what he's going to do. And he continues to take these martial arts classes, but he soon realizes that a lot of these martial arts teachers, they're just not really what they should be. These martial arts teachers just lack something. Now, what is that specifically? Well, Izuku's not sure, but he can tell that they're missing something. He can tell that there's this strength that lies ahead that they're not going to be able to get for him. So he continues to try to basically up his training, but would realize that his physical body is already at its basic peak, that he's continuously growing stronger and stronger, but now he's at the point where he feels the strongest he could possibly be. So for the last 2 months, he continues studies, but also continues meditating to try and control this energy that lays within him, the energy and power that is basically dormant within him, that he wants to bring out to its fullest degree. He wants to bring out his warrior spirit and his warrior's aura to a large extent, and he will get there. He knows he will, because all that matters to him at this moment is to be a warrior and to hold power beyond belief, that nobody can stop him. Nobody can stop him from getting to the destination that he wants to get to, and that's what he's going to do. But after the 10 months of training, Izuku Midoriya would now get his chance to show what he has and what he's capable of in front of countless teachers at UA High School. The UA entrance exam would be upon them, and the first thing he would have to do is sit by Bakugo. He would sit by Bakugo, and frankly, the guy would be annoying. Super annoying. Would annoy the hell out of Izuku, and he would think, well, he's going to have to deal with this. He's going to have to deal with it, because most likely he respects Bakugo's power and knows Bakugo is definitely going to pass the UA entrance exam. So he's going to have to deal with it no matter what. But to be honest, that's something that he'll worry about later, because if Bakugo is going to be, a dumb person and not do what he's supposed to do, well, Bakugo's going to fall off and never be the hero that he seeks out to be. Now, with all the written portion and all this other parts of the exams finished and completely just, finalized to a large extent, Izuku now is ready to take on the practical part of the exam. The practical part of the exam is to fight a ton of robots. And Izuku realizes that this is going to be the first challenge he's really ever had. He's never necessarily fought high level, extremely durable people because, what's he going to do? He can't do that necessarily. He's trying to train and trying to get stronger and trying to get better, but he has his limitations in terms of training. But luckily enough, this will definitely give him a test, but the test, well, let's just say he'll pass it with flying colors because Izuku goes in and absolutely demolishes almost every single robot known to man. He begins to fly around, smashing robot after robot, destroying them in one foul swoop, and everybody who's watching, well, they can't even believe what they're even seeing because Izuku is at a level that nobody can freaking believe. He might even be stronger than All Might himself. Everybody wonders, how the heck did this kid get this powerful? How did he get this strong? Surely there are limitations. Surely there are things that the kid lacks. So how is he this powerful? What kind of quirk does he have? And as Aizawa begins to check what quirk this kid has, Izuku Midoriya, in a label and a folder, he opens it to see that the kid is quirkless. He doesn't know how this makes sense and what he is, but the kid, well, it says he's quirkless. But there is additional notes saying that they think that he has some sort of kind of strength-like power, but according to all doctors' reports, the kid is flat out quirkless and doesn't have a quirk at all. In which this would shock Izuku, or shock everybody, that Izuku is quirkless, that he is actually not the person or the powerful being necessarily that everybody would look at, but he is that powerful. Everybody's in the mind space of, oh, well, he doesn't have a quirk, so that means he must be not that strong. But that's not the case at all. Izuku would show everybody that it doesn't matter that he doesn't have a quirk, and frankly, it doesn't matter not even one bit. Izuku shows them all that his capabilities are beyond anybody who has a quirk in the first place, and he shows discipline that nobody would even understand. Yes, he believes power is all, but now after a conversation with All Might, he understands hey, he needs to make sure that he is focusing on rescue and stuff like that. So when he gets his opportunity to actually save a girl by the name of Ochaku Uraraka, well, he just goes in, one foul swoop, no facial features, no smiling, no happiness. He goes in, grabs her out of the way, saves her, and one punches the giant robot. With one foul swoop, he shatters it to absolute pieces, and everybody is in shock and awe. How the hell did he just do that? That is a feat that even All Might himself would have to do. Nobody else would be able to do that, not in the way he did it. Not just one punch, not just one foul swoop. There's just no way he would be able to do something like that, but he did. Everybody is watching. Everybody is seeing. He just did it. He just did exactly what everybody seemed and thought to be the impossible. But the impossible is very probable when you have power. And that's exactly what Izuku Midoriya has, and exactly what he's showing and putting on display for everybody, every last faculty and UA teacher that is currently watching and wondering, what is the next step for this kid? What is the next step for this powerful being that, frankly, nobody is ready for? Izuku Midoriya would then end up leaving. He would end up being done, no healing needed, and he would just leave. People would even try to talk to him. People like Ochaku Uraraka would try and speak with him, but of course, he's like, I don't care. He doesn't mind at all. He saved her. That is that. And now he's just wanting to leave. He just heads out before anybody can even really say much, if not anything. And Izuku is just ready to head back home and do what he does best. Meditate, train, prepare, and get ready. That's what he wants to do. But he still has these little middle schoolers, these little people that are, to be honest, kind of looking at him, looking after him, and kind of thinking, oh, we want to be part of your troop of fighters and warriors. Like, we've been training. But Izuku is just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, we're no vigilantes. We're no nothing. Stop it. Like, just stop it. And Izuku, of course, is just like, hey, like, I don't need you guys' help. I don't need anyone's, like, help in general. He straight up is just like, I don't want any of you guys being around me at the end of the day. That I'm powerful, I'm strong, but I am no general figure. I'm no All Might. I'm not somebody who you should follow. I'm somebody who's going to uphold justice, and that is it. And if upholding justice means also saving lives, defeating people, and ending people as well, that's exactly what he's going to do. In which a lot of them are just in awe that he feels this way. But Izuku, well, that's the truth. Izuku feels that, well, he needs to hold his power in high regard. And if he's going to make some sort of pride troopers, then they need to be at a level that is optimal to him and also others. And that's what's going to happen. Now, of course, an entrance into UA is no joke. And when he gets the letter and gets told that he is the #1 student, he is not surprised by any means. But it's still no joke to enter into a prestigious school like this one, because all the faculty, all the facilities, everything that is allowed here is at a very high level, giving Izuku a chance and an opportunity to level himself up and level up his strength to a large degree. And that right there is the main thing. Being able to level and also just get stronger in general, is what matters. Now, of course, the first day of UA, it's a simple one for Izuku. Izuku gets there and he actually hears that they're not going to do orientation, which Izuku even kind of references that orientation is stupid and that there should be no reason for them to do that. They don't need to be kind of told that they're amazing, or they don't need to be shown this or that, or they don't have to basically be like, oh yeah, you like everybody's so cool and so awesome. You guys are all heroes. Welcome. You guys did it. Blah, blah, blah. No one cares. That's how Izuku feels. Izuku feels that this power that he holds, that's what matters. Everything that is to be a hero, that's what matters. In which when Aizawa comes in and tells them all that they are not going to orientation, Izuku would slightly smirk, just a tiny little bit. And some people would even see this and think, wow, that's crazy. I feel like that's the first time I've ever seen this guy smile. And that's the reality of it. That is literally the first time anyone's seen this guy smile. The guy doesn't smile, like, at all. And, of course, this would lead them to the what they're going to do instead of orientation, which would be kind of a training or a kind of assessment that they are going to go through and that they're going to learn from, which is a quirk assessment. Now, this is just raw strength, raw speed, raw power, stuff like that. And all of those things Izuku will excel in. Throwing a ball beyond even measure itself, throwing it to space. And in terms of speed, he's faster than everybody. He's stronger than everybody, quicker, more reactive, everything you could possibly imagine. Izuku is at a totally different level, a level that is beyond anything that really all of these people can do, maybe even beyond anything that's, well, All Might himself could do. Now, All Might has the captivation of all of the people that look at him as a savior, look at him as the #1 hero, look at him as the top of the top, the best of the best. But Izuku's strength shows Aizawa that he has arguably another version of All Might, if not one that has the potential, if not already stronger than All Might himself. Aizawa would smirk just a little bit, thinking that this kid can be honed to be an absolute machine and can be honed to the point where he can actually just flat out be the best ever, that he can flat out be the greatest protector of Japan and someone that villains will fear forever. Izuku excels in this kind of portion of the exam, or excels in this kind of quirk assessment, and this would obviously lead them going to orientation and lead them on to kind of what they're going to do next. lead them on to just everything that is going to happen in the near future. Of course, the next thing they have to do is a bit of training. Now, that bit of training is exactly what they were thinking about. Exactly what All Might was thinking about. Izuku might be strong. Izuku might be powerful. He might be even stronger than him. But Izuku needs to understand the way of being a hero. Heroes versus villains will show him that. At least that's what All Might thought. Izuku and Ochako versus Bakugo and Tenya Ida, with Izuku being on the hero side. Izuku would dash in and he would go for the bomb instantly, not even thinking about these other villains, and he would crash through a window, knocking out Tenya and touching a bomb in a matter of a split second. Izuku finishes easily, but it kind of just slightly frustrates All Might. Izuku would basically just be done with this immediately, and showing that all of his power is the reason why he's able to do it, in which he finishes them off like instantaneously basically, and everybody's like, whoa, that was quick, like ridiculously quick and ridiculously powerful. Now, of course, there are some things that All Might tells him about being reckless, about hurting a villain beyond, what you want, and Izuku says that he pulled his punch. There's a reason why Tenya is not extremely hurt, but All Might tells him that just because he's not extremely hurt doesn't mean that he's not hurt. That you have to realize you are doing a drill, but you're also dealing with people that possibly are weaker than you, and Izuku needs to be able to hold back. In which Izuku says that if he has to hold back that much, then there's really no point of him doing the drill in the first place. In which All Might, he nods his head. He thinks, you know what? You're right. You are completely right. So how about we change the drill and change the sequence just a little bit? He tells Ochako, tells Tenya Ida, tells Bakugo, tells Todoroki, and so on and so forth. Every single person there to go and line up in a different area. They all head out and they go to a different ground in a different area where it's a cityscape to a certain extent, and they all stand out there. They ask, what's going on? Like, what are they even doing? And All Might tells them to stand there and wait, because it's going to be them versus Izuku Midoriya. That's it. All of them versus one person. And All Might would then tell Izuku that he's not actually allowed to hit anybody. In which Izuku's like, what are you talking about? I'm not allowed to hit anybody. That makes no sense. Because, well, All Might would then say he would take 4 of the people there. Mina, he would take Hagakure, he would take two other people as well. Just some additional people for here and there. Maybe Momo, maybe another person like maybe like Sugar Rush or something like that. Anybody who's there right now. 4 of them, just 4 of them. So you have the whole class excluding 4, and those 4 are spread out throughout the entirety of the city. And he tells Izuku that his job is to get them, save them, and not lay a single finger on the rest of the class. In which Izuku thinks this is ridiculous. This is horrible. This is dumb. That he could basically knock them all out and have everybody saved. But Izuku is then told by All Might that yes, that is the truth. Yes, you could just knock them all out. You could hurt them all and then be done with it. But a real hero looks to save first and then defeat second. And if he can do that, and if he can truly sacrifice himself and save others, then that he'll have full confidence that he'll be a hero. Because frankly, right now, Izuku's acting like he's going to war. Izuku's acting as if he's a warrior that stands on the front lines and gets ready to kill with no nonsense. But All Might tells him that they're training to be heroes. There's a difference, a very big difference. And Izuku looks at him and is frustrated, but shakes his head and tells him that he'll get it done, just like how he makes everything else look so easy. Izuku would stand in front of basically his whole class, excluding 4 people, and he would get ready to dash in and actually save these 4 without even touching or hitting the other people. But with that said, that is where we're going to end off this part. This is where we're going to end off this part of What If Deku Was Jiren's reincarnation. Izuku Midoriya faces down the entirety of Class 1A. But of course, there are 4 people that he has to quote-unquote save, and, well, he's going to do that. But he's not allowed to even touch these other people. Not allowed to hit them, not allowed to fight them, not allowed to touch them. So Izuku, well, he starts with immediately just dodging attacks that would come from various different people, big ice attacks, big explosions, and much more. He continues to dodge, and they try to formulate a plan to stop him in his tracks. But Izuku continues to maneuver in ways that people don't even understand. It gets to a point where Izuku dashes straight through them all and dodges and weaves like he's unconditionally doing it without even thinking. But he's just so much faster than them, and also a lot more technical in terms of martial arts, that none of them can truly keep up. None of them can even lay a finger on him. He grabs one of the students and then proceeds to grab 2 more. As he would bring them to the designated location, he would have 1 more student to rescue. And this student, well, is Ochako Uraraka, which is ironic because this is the same person he saved not too long ago. But he saved her more or less based on a show of true power and by just slightly moving her out of the way. But as he dashes in, everybody tries to stop him. A range of attacks shooting his way, but he's able to actually just maneuver his way once again through. But as he gets to Ochako, he would grab her and then bring her to that said location, and well, All Might's about to say that it's over, like the test or the training session is over, but Izuku stands in front of all of them and he tells All Might that if he wants, he can continue this training session and he still will not lay a finger on any of them. He'll defeat them without even touching them one bit. In which, of course, this would be confusing to All Might, thinking, there's just no way. What is he talking about? How is he going to do what he's saying he's going to do? And Izuku would begin dashing at the rest of them as he would let the literal air gusts or the large gusts of wind kind of be utilized as a way of attacking, punching the air itself and basically sending these tunnels of air straight towards these students of Class 1A, knocking them all to the ground or shoving them away or basically doing stuff like that, and more or less putting them at a massive disadvantage. Bakugo and Shoto would try to clash with Izuku as he would send these barrages of air gusts of wind, and as they try to do this, Shoto would begin to slowly tire out, being that he's only using his ice side. Same thing with Bakugo. He's beginning to tire out because he's just using an excessive amount of explosions. Izuku tells them that they have not trained enough. They have not worked hard enough. They have not truly taken on the responsibility that is going to be theirs in the near future. They think this is still a game. They think that raw, just kind of gifted talent is going to get them to the destination that they need to be. No. That is not going to get them to the destination they seek. The destination they seek is obviously being a hero, but the way to do it is to have an unyielding work ethic. Hard work, it will get you to places that will be unspeakable, but on top of that, you need to combine it with the talent that you already have, with the passion and talent and sense of justice you already have, in which they would all be knocked to the ground, defeated, and All Might would call a stop to this training session, and everybody would wonder, what happened to Izuku that made him feel this way? What happened to Izuku to push him to this limit, push him to this moment, push him to this extent that he feels that any sense of justice threads through power and hard work, and any sense of justice starts when you are absolutely gifted, but elevated when you realize that all that matters is power. Well, back when he was younger, just a little bit younger, he was around 8 to 9 years old, Izuku would have an actual meeting and an actual greeting with his father. His father that is overseas, and really he never sees him at all. His father would be telling him about the adventures that he'd been on, the types of kind of journeys that he's explored, and, well, the things that he has had to deal with. Izuku would hear this and think that this is amazing, that he's in complete awe about this idea that his father is such an adventurer, that he really goes about his way and really goes about just an amazing journey. But as his father would leave on another 5 to 7 year journey once again, that is going to take him a long time and all the way around the world, a news station would come up talking just days into his father's journey. Days into his father's journey, there would be an attack on his ship, and his father would talk about, or basically the people would talk about his father, about how he tried to fend everybody off, that he tried to fend off these intruders, but nothing would work, and that he lacked the power and the strength to truly save everybody on board. And really, it was a tragedy that these people even showed up in the first place. A tragedy that these people would basically try to invade a ship that wasn't really bothering anybody, and that was just trying to journey through the waters and have an adventure to learn so much more about this world. Izuku, with his fists clasped and his fists just tightened as hard as possible, Izuku would think that his father should have been stronger, more powerful, and maybe years later he could have came back and he could have spoke with his father once again, to speak about the journey he went on, speak about the things that he saw. But now he will never get that chance. Flashback to the present, Izuku is standing there in realization that, of course, power is everything, and power is his way to protect. That is the only way to protect. Izuku would walk toward All Might, and he would tell All Might that he's shown enough, that he's shown him that he can do everything, that power does protect, and power does, or is, the solution. In which All Might shakes his head and tells the kid to basically go get ready for his other classes, as Izuku would walk off, thinking still about that day that he watched his father leave on that ship and never come back. Izuku would get ready and begin going through his classes and going through many other things throughout this time, but eventually there would be a time and place for rescue training. Training that Izuku isn't necessarily excited for, but knows that is important to the job. He does acknowledge that. He does acknowledge that it is important to the job, but he still doesn't really care too much about learning how to properly rescue people when he could just swoop in, grab them, and make them safe with absolute ease. Izuku knows that it's very simple and very easy, and he wants to make sure that he shows that throughout this time, especially at this rescue facility with Pro Hero 13. But what he didn't know was that this was going to be a true showing of the power that he holds. A true showing, but this true showing would lead to him being put on the radar for other villains. The League of Villains would be invading the USJ, would be invading this rescue facility. But it's not as simple as that. They would be invading the USJ, but here's the thing. Izuku would stand tall next to Aizawa, and Aizawa already knows that the kid is not going to hold back. The kid is going to dive in there head first to defeat these villains, and he knows it, so he's going to allow it. There's no point of him telling him to stay back, no point of him to tell him to not move or do something. He knows that he's going to do it anyways. So he stands next to Izuku, and he tells him to not kill anybody, just knock them out. We'll capture them and be done with it. Izuku nods as he would dive headfirst toward the villains over there, and in almost one foul swoop, before Aizawa could even do anything, all the villains on the initial floor are gone, knocked out and put to the ground, and Izuku stands staring at Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the Nomu. Shigaraki would immediately say that, well, it seems like they have heard about this person that might even be as strong as All Might himself, or at least the potential to be. But is he really that strong? Because this thing right here that stands next to Shigaraki, he tells him, that is supposed to kill All Might. I wonder how it would do against you. Izuku looks at Shigaraki and looks at the Nomu as it charges at him. Aizawa would tell him to get out of the way, but the punch would come faster than you could imagine, at least in the eyes of, well, of course, Aizawa. But Izuku would be able to parry it and punch the Nomu square in the face, slamming him on the ground and dragging him through the ground itself and slamming him against the wall of the USJ. Immediately, Kurogiri would open a portal trying to have Shigaraki grab onto Izuku, but immediately Izuku would turn, grabbing the wrist of Shigaraki and yanking him out of the portal, yanking him to the Nomu and slamming him into the Nomu's body, and then throwing Shigaraki back toward Aizawa. As he does this, he picks up the Nomu and slams him once again, and continues to slam him over and over and over again. He tells the Nomu that he is a scientific project, that he is nothing. The power he holds is all just some weird experiment. The power Izuku holds is true power from a warrior, from a true hero. That is what this is. Izuku would slam his foot into the face of the Nomu as he would continue to batter the Nomu senseless, as the Nomu's body would deteriorate slowly but surely. The resistance and all the resistances that the Nomu has, it seems like it doesn't matter. An overwhelming amount of punches, 50, maybe even 100 punches in a matter of a couple seconds. Izuku would watch the Nomu crumble to the ground, and Kurogiri can't even fathom what he just saw. Shigaraki can't either, but his quirk is being cancelled by Aizawa, and he is wrapped up in his scarf, unable to move. A portal would open up beneath Shigaraki, but Izuku would make sure that Shigaraki can't escape. He would immediately be thinking that he's not going to allow this villain just to leave. It's not as simple as just coming and threatening a bunch of children, a bunch of teenagers, and just leaving. Dashing at Kurogiri and grabbing onto his metal body, slamming it to the ground. Bakugo would jump forward and he would land an explosion onto the body of Kurogiri, holding him still. Izuku would then tell him to keep him there and don't let him move. They would then lock up Shigaraki, making sure that he has nothing he can do, and basically he is restricted, as other heroes would then arrive, and as All Might would arrive as well, seeing that everything was already handled. Izuku Midoriya standing there victorious, but not a smile would crack on his face. He just had probably the most glorious moment of his life, a moment that proved to everybody that in terms of how high of a level he is and how much further along he is compared to everyone else, well, he just proved it all. He just proved every single ounce of it. Izuku Midoriya is stronger, faster, and better than everybody that stands next to him, and he's proved it already in front of literally all of his classmates and even villains themselves, but not even a smile would crack on his face, as if he knows that it's just another day at the job. It's just another day that he needed to basically proceed to help people, proceed to take down these villains, and proceed to make sure that these villains were captured and unable to truly do what they came here to do, and that is kill All Might. Izuku would walk up to All Might and tell him that they were there for him. They were there to end him. He doesn't know where he was, what he was doing, and what was restricting him, but he wants him to know that the job of All Might is so much more than he could possibly imagine. The job that he holds, the #1 hero, it's so much more than he can possibly imagine. Just the threat of him being around will hurt and scare and basically hinder people all around. He just wants him to understand that it's so much more. And that is the idea that he's going to be holding on to. That Izuku Midoriya, Izuku Midoriya will be the number one hero. Izuku Midoriya will be the one that stands in front of everybody, that protects everybody, but through true power, untested, unchallengeable power. That's what he is. He is a true warrior. That is what Izuku tells All Might, and that All Might lacks a lot. All Might has the power, but he doesn't really know how to hone it. He doesn't truly have the ability to harness it. His punches are sloppy, his kicks nothing, and he continues to truly disappoint. Izuku tells him this and says that he looked up to him. He's looked up to him, and he always will look up to him, but he needs to be better. Or it's almost time for him to pass off that mantle and pass off what truly is All Might. Izuku would leave, and as everybody else would kind of grab all the villains and get them all, into prison and stuff like that, Izuku, well, he would be preparing for the UA Sports Festival. But as this is occurring, well, a lot of people are having questions about why Izuku is the way he is. All Might himself asking Aizawa, and, well, let's just say they take a trip to speak with his mother, and eventually they get their answers. All the answers that they needed, at least to somewhat understand. But that doesn't mean that they can stop him from approaching things in a different light. I mean, he is going to potentially be a great hero. There is no way around it. They've had other heroes that were far worse than Izuku in terms of mindsets. Some thinking about riches and fame, and that was it, not saving people. Others thinking about how they were going to surpass others, and how they were so kind of over the top with their powers, and basically ended up being horrible people. Izuku, yes, shows signs of those things, but his line of reasoning isn't the worst in the world. And his line of reasoning isn't going to show everybody that, well, he's going to be somehow transferred into a horrible hero or even a villain. Izuku obviously doesn't really hold those traits right now, and what the story of his father and what happened, well, it's just more to it on the idea that he's definitely not going to be a villain. He's just going to be a hero that doesn't play the part that's normally Japan would have. The hero that would stand tall with a big smile and say that I am here. He is not that hero. He is a warrior. He is a true warrior. Someone who holds power overall, but knows that rescuing those who are less than and those who need help, well, he knows that he is going to need to do those things. But he does put power over everything, and that power, in his eyes, will get him to the point that he needs to get to. And, well, Izuku Midoriya will be thinking about this and will be training, and he continues to train for even more power. He continues to train, meditate, think, and as he does this, as days would pass and eventually the UA Sports Festival would arrive, Izuku Midoriya would be prepared for it, and let's just say this would not be a fair contest. Even Aizawa thinks that maybe they should just, pull him out and tell everybody how good of a warrior and have a fighter and a hero he can potentially be. But this UA Sports Festival is going to be Izuku's time to show everybody what he can do, in which right off the bat, he tells them all that power is everything. He stands on the podium and he tells them that power and strength is everything, that he is going to prove that here today, and that in the future he is going to be a hero that is going to hold such power that villains cower in fear, that villains have no other choice than just to turn themselves in, because there's not a single thing they can do, not a single thing they can try, because they will always lose. And as this speech is going on, the most notorious villain of them all for one, is currently watching a kid who has unboundless power gloat and talk and say that all villains will cower in fear. He is disgusted by this. All for one thinks that he had to deal with one All Might, and it seems like he's going to have to deal with a more serious one. It disgusts him that he's going to have to deal with this, and it disgusts him and makes him disgusted that Shigaraki and Kurogiri fell to this guy, this one kid. It angers him as he puts a hole through a wall, and he begins to think that somehow, some way, he needs to get his hands on him, because whatever he is, whatever he's becoming, and whatever he's going to be, that's what he needs. Izuku, though, would show off his great power through, for one, the obstacle course race, just flying through it at insane speeds, and would be done in a matter of seconds. Everybody would basically be sitting there in awe, thinking that this guy wasn't kidding. His power is off the charts. His power is what seems to be limitless. Izuku would then just sit down and meditate, sitting there, just still, waiting. And as he's sitting there waiting, he's just waiting for all these other students to finish, waiting for all of them to be done with the obstacle course race. And in terms of the next portion, the cavalry battle, well, let's just say when he teams up with the normal people, Tokiyami, Ochako, Meihatsume, everybody would fear him. Everybody. Even Bakugo. Bakugo would not even consider running forward toward Izuku. Izuku would stand there and basically just meditate while standing up, and he would begin floating as everybody kind of holds on, and they all just sit there as Izuku is helping them float in the air or fly in the air to a large extent, and everybody just sits there and waits. Nobody is coming. Nobody is trying, because they know what Izuku is capable of. And as this finishes and as they win, Izuku would be ready. Izuku would be ready for the 1-versus-1 battles, and it would all start with Hitoshi Shinso. Shinso would immediately try to get Izuku talking, but quickly he would realize that Izuku is not a talker. Izuku says no words. He speaks with only his actions, and his eyes speak thousands of them. Thousands of words. He walks towards Shinso, and Shinso tries to do something, but he's grabbed immediately, and he's tripped over and slightly tossed out of the ring. It's as if Izuku doesn't even put a ton of effort. He doesn't want to actually hurt him. There's no point in doing so, because he knows that his quirk and his power that he holds, well, Shinso doesn't have much of it, so there's not much for him to really push back on. Everybody is cheering, saying that this kid is so impressive. How is he able to do this? I mean, truly, yes, Shinso doesn't really have a quirk like a strength like Quirk, but the power that he holds, what he's able to do, what he's capable of, I mean, it looks effortless. It looks like he sees things that are happening before they even happen. And eventually Izuku would have his fight with Shoto Todoroki, in which Endeavor would try to speak with Izuku, telling him to get him to use his fire side, but of course, no. Izuku is not even listening to him. He just walks right by and goes straight to the stadium and goes immediately into the battle, as he would just punch his way through iceberg after iceberg after iceberg, not letting up one bit. Izuku would tell Todoroki that he's truly disappointing, that yes, he is weak, and it shows through him and throughout, but on top of that, he only decides to use half of his power. It's truly a sad thing. The power that was gifted to him, he hasn't even raised it up, hasn't even basically pushed it to its limits. Why? Why does he continue to only use part of his power? Why does he continue to only use a portion of what he's truly capable of? Deku would then finish the job, finishing off Todoroki, knocking him out of the ring, but he would obviously tell him that it was a disappointment, that it was disappointing, and that he should be ashamed of himself. He may look at his father like a horrible person, and he probably is. Honestly, he definitely is. But it doesn't mean he should just allow himself to basically be weaker and use less of his power because of that grudge. He is throwing too much of his strength away, too much of his potential away, and he should be holding that potential in high regard and pushing that potential even further. And that the power that he holds could be his token to being great. But unfortunately, he's throwing it all away. Izuku would walk away as the crowd would cheer, and everybody would think that this is absolutely amazing. This guy is a different beast and on a different stratosphere in terms of power. And the last but not least, he would cut through Tenya Ida with very, very easy intentions. And then obviously he has to take on Bakugo in the finals. This finals, it's not even close. Bakugo stands no chance, and he's able to unleash some inner frustration he has with Bakugo, getting rid of him outside the ring and finishing it off, showing that he is so much better and so much greater than every single student at UA High School. Everybody cheers Izuku on, and everybody chants his name. Izuku Midoriya is labeled as a warrior, a true warrior. The true warrior, Izuku Midoriya. That is what Izuku is being labeled as and shown as. The warrior that is going to save hero society forever. A true hero that is going to embrace the warrior mentality and the warrior spirit to enhance his own strength and level up his own power, and also show what he's truly capable of in the eyes of the villains. The villains will stand no chance, because this is not a bravado, this is not a persona, this is who Izuku Midoriya is. And he stands on the podium with his fist held high, and he tells them all that power is all that matters truly, and safety equals power. Izuku would then get his cheers, and then get a mix of people chanting his name as well, and then eventually everybody would quiet down. Everything would slow down and everything would calm down. The UA Sports Festival would be at its end, and Izuku Midoriya would have much more to think about and much more to do in the near future, especially with internships, especially with progressing his hero society and hero world and his hero journey even further. But for now, that is the end of this part 2 of What If Deku was Jiren's reincarnation. Izuku Midoriya has his fist raised to the sky. Cheers can be heard throughout the entire stadium, and he has done it. He has won the UA Sports Festival and has shown everybody what he's truly capable of. They cheer him on, and they think that he is the next great and amazing hero that anybody in Japan or anybody in the world could ever ask for. There are large speculations and a lot of people saying that they want to have Izuku basically join this hero organization, or this internship, and this blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. And Izuku has countless, we're talking countless numbers of people that are trying to get a hold of him. And well, Izuku decides to actually go down the pathway of someone else. It might sound insane and it might sound crazy, but Izuku Midoriya would have All Might walk up to him, and All Might would tell him that he has somebody perfect for him, and perfect to basically know and look at everything in a different direction. And that is basically his old mentor. That is Gran Torino, in which this would shock Izuku. He really wants him to train with his old mentor. Why would he want to do that? Wouldn't he want to basically have someone that's basically a successor to him do that? In which, of course, All Might says, yes, that is the truth, that if his successor was in this scenario somehow, that maybe he would do this. But nobody's necessarily has the power that All Might has. And, well, he continues to kind of bluff his way through it, but he tells him that Gran Torino will be good for him. It'd be a good training, and it would be a good understanding of many things. Izuku shrugs his shoulders and thinks, okay, if you say so. So he goes and he enters an internship with Gran Torino and actually does something very, very basic. I mean, everything around is very basic, and Gran Torino's acting like an absolute lunatic, saying stuff that obviously it seems like he has some sort of dementia or some sort of old age kind of disorder, and he doesn't know what's happening. And Izuku helps him out, tries to help him out do certain things, and he would get frustrated. He would be annoyed, but he would understand that Gran Torino must be teaching him something. So he helps Gran Torino cook his dinner, helps him kind of clean up and do this and do that. And Gran Torino would then eventually stop acting like an idiot and would tell the kid that he has a lot of potential, a ton. But being soft and careful and also caring in those moments is important as well. That he needs to be that way. He needs to feel this way. That it's not as simple as basically just running around and knocking people out. That having people feel that they are safe around you, having people feel that it is a warm, safe place when you are standing in front of them, when you are protecting them, is a very important part of being a hero. Gran Torino tells him that all the power he has, it matters so much more than you could possibly imagine. The more power you have, the more people will fear you. The more people who fear you, the more people will not look at you like a hero and think that you are not the person that you should be. Izuku would look at him and be shocked to hear this, thinking that maybe he's right. Maybe there's a chance that he's overlooked all of these things. Maybe he's really overlooked this idea that power is everything. But Izuku knows that it is. Power is everything. If he has it, then he can protect everyone. But it doesn't mean everybody who's being protected feels like they're protected. And Gran Torino makes it very clear to him that just because all of these things, all of this power he has, allows him to save others, doesn't mean that he's truly saving them the best he possibly can. And he needs to understand that. And once he does, then everything will be easy. Everything will be simple, and everything will be done. Gran Torino makes it very clear to him, and after a couple days of training, Izuku would finally be able to see this. See the people that walk around, see the people that care, see the people that are soft and scared, see the people that really need help, because that's what he needs to be. He needs to be that person that can save others and make people feel protected, not feel scared that their own hero may end up putting them on collateral damage. Not make them feel as if the hero's first duty is to protect them, is to shelter them, is to cover them, and is to make sure that they are safe. And Izuku now understands this. And, well, Gran Torino decides that, you know what, he thinks it's time to go on a bit of a patrol. So they decide that they're going to patrol Hosu City. But what Gran Torino didn't know and didn't even think about what was going to happen was that Izuku would have a run-in with the hero killer himself, which is completely out of the ordinary, because this isn't something that, well, a lot of people would think would happen. But Izuku runs into him, and the reason why he does is because there's another student by the name of Tenya Ida who is on the floor with almost a sword in his back. Izuku in one foul swoop would punch the sword away and would immediately be able to kind of beat on the hero killer very easily, dismantling all the weapons that he has and eventually kicking him into a wall. The hero killer would be shocked to see this, thinking that this is insane. How the heck is he able to do that? Izuku would see another hero that is currently on the ground bleeding out. He would put Tenya and him on his back. Izuku would tell them to basically hold on tight, or at least try to, with whatever fibers of their body they still have working. And Izuku looks at the hero killer and tells him that the safety of these two matter more than the defeat of him. But if he is still here when he gets back, a fight will still ensue, and the fight and the defeat of himself in terms of the hero killer will be guaranteed, and the hero killer will be fallen immediately. He jumps off and flies away as he would put Tenya and also the other hero in a safe spot and an area where ambulances will come and get them. As he does this, he would fly back toward the hero killer, and the hero killer would be pulling up his blades and holstering them. Izuku would stand there and say that a real hero will stop him. A real hero will end this reign of tyranny, the hunt for heroes. Izuku tells him that his hunting needs to end today and he needs to turn himself in now. In which immediately Izuku just waits for some sort of answer, and no, nothing. Hero Killer stands there and stares at him, but then he begins to speak. He says that he sounds like somebody, sounds similar to somebody. He sounds like All Might, the only true hero that exists, the only true hero that is allowed to defeat him. He is just a kid though, a kid with powers similar to All Might himself. He must be the successor. in which Izuku shakes his head. Successor. No. I am no successor. I am not what All Might is. All Might is a hero, a true hero. But I am not a necessary true hero. I am first a true warrior, and one that will hold power forever. Of course, the hero killer would scoff at this, saying that nobody holds power above every single person forever, and one day he will fall. One day, somebody will be stronger. And Izuku looks at him and shakes his head and says that today is not the day. As he punches him square in the face and slams him on the ground, and he puts his hands behind his back, and he basically ties him up in a really thick rope, and he drags the hero killer away. And as he walks out of the alleyway, he would see Todoroki and Endeavor running over. Izuku would throw hero killer at Endeavor and tell him that he did his job for him, that he should be thanking him. Now he can take the credit and be even more of a fake hero than he's always been. In which Izuku would take this shot at Endeavor as he would just walk away, and Endeavor would be seething. This kid, he's really calling me these things. He's calling me a fake hero. He's saying all these horrible things, and Todoroki doesn't even say a word. He actually chuckles a little bit, thinking that his father really is upset about that specifically, and that is just hilarious. Izuku leaves and is questioned by the police briefly, but Izuku just kind of handles it the way he needs to handle it, and then heads out. They all head out to basically go back to UA High School now that the internships are officially over. And Izuku has a slightly new outlook on life. Now, he does believe power is everything, but now he does understand the value of protecting people and the value of making everybody feel relatively safe. But as we creep into this final exam, as we finish off the written portion of the exam that Izuku does pretty damn well at, eventually it would be time for another thing. Time for the practical exam. The practical exam is an important thing that is happening sooner than you could possibly imagine, and the practical exam will put up Bakugo and Izuku facing face to face with All Might himself. But Izuku, before it even starts, would tell them that they should relocate Bakugo to a different team. Now, there's nothing that he has necessarily against Bakugo nowadays, and he says that he could just swat him away like a fly. That's what he could do, but he's not going to do that. But he wants them to know he doesn't want anything to do with him. If he has to deal with him, he'll deal with him. But he believes that a fight between him and All Might is imminent, and he wants to show the power, the true power that he has as a warrior and as a future hero to the man and the myth, the legend himself, All Might. He wants to show him the addition of a worthy opponent, an opponent that would stand far above him, in which they would think about this. Aizawa would even think about it, and he would ask if the kid is serious, that he wants to go head to head with All Might by himself. In which Izuku says that he hasn't been joking a day in his life, and this is as serious as he'll ever be. In which Aizawa nods his head, saying, "Why not? How about we get you face to face with All Might, one-on-one? If you lose, you don't go to the forest training camp. You don't get the extra training, and you have to do all of these other studies throughout school. You win, you can go there with the rest of your class, and, well, everybody in UA will know that you defeated All Might." Izuku nods his head and says that he'll be surprised how quickly this fight will be over, in which he would walk toward the city and everybody would be clamoring, everybody would be excited, everybody would be freaking out, thinking there's just no way. Izuku's about to face down All Might, one-on-one, mano-on-mano. This is going to be insane. Izuku stands across from All Might in the giant city, and he begins to charge at him, flying at All Might, and All Might charges back as well. And in one punch, All Might would land a punch right onto Izuku's fist, and as they clash, buildings would shatter, buildings would crunch, but All Might could feel the power behind the punch, and he would begin to feel his arm go numb. Izuku would stand there and say that at this time, All Might's hands and also arm are losing feeling. And as the punch to his gut would settle in, as another punch would settle into a part of his leg, and a kick, and then another kick, Izuku would tell him that parts of his body would start feeling a sensation he's probably never felt in his life. True pain. True limitation. Izuku would tell him that yes, he's an amazing fighter. He is an amazing hero. But power always comes creeping. And there's always going to be a stronger person. And it took a little bit longer than probably he expected. But now there is one. Now there is one that is stronger. And his name is Izuku Midoriya. Izuku would charge forward, about to land a punch to All Might's face. But then he would stop. He would kick All Might to the floor. And he would put the capture cuffs on him. And everybody would think this was amazing. Everybody would be chanting, Izuku Midoriya wins on a capture. Izuku helps All Might up and begins to brush him off, saying there was no point of punching him until he was down. Now, this way, All Might doesn't have to be hurt, and he doesn't have to be even more damaged than, well, he says he already is. Izuku points at his stomach and points at the injury that All Might had no clue that Izuku would even know existed. Izuku would look at him and put his hand on his shoulder, and he would bestow him a certain amount of ki. As he does this, the wound would actually heal just a little bit, and not fully or anything like that, but Izuku would tell him that right there is the part of the power that is bestowed upon him, the power that he has as a warrior and as somebody that has been granted power beyond just a quirk. Izuku would tell him that his wound will start feeling better. A wound that happened a long time ago might not have the greatest impact when he places, kind of ki and regeneration within it, but it will help him in the short term. Will make him feel a lot closer to his prime than he's ever felt before, in which All Might says it's the truth, that he feels so much better, stronger, almost faster. He's freaking out about this, but he hugs Izuku. Izuku hugs him back and says that Gran Torino has taught him a lot. Maybe it's not as simple for him personally to look at the world the way he looks at it, but he now understands what All Might means. The value of a life is truly important. Every single one of them is truly important. And if he could just save one person in his life, then everything would be worth it. And that is an understanding that he'll now know, and now know that even one person's life is worth a lifetime. And he's going to constantly save so many that he'll be worth thousands of lifetimes. Izuku would help All Might leave and go to Recovery Girl and be in a safe spot, and everybody in his class would surround him, saying that was amazing, that they can't believe how easily he defeated All Might, in which Izuku shakes his head and says that it was not easy. It was far from easy. All Might is impressive, a strong fighter, a strong warrior, but a stronger hero. Izuku says that All Might is just at the top of the line, but he's also walking down the top of the hill, because at the end of the day, when more and more people are born with powers and more powers, there's going to be someone stronger. Just like how he stands here today, there's always going to be someone stronger coming in the near future. Everybody settles down and everybody gets ready, finishing up their kind of assessments and stuff like that. And eventually, it's now time. Eventually, it is now time for them to go to the forest training camp. The forest training camp is an important part of this, and they go throughout the entirety of the week just training, getting stronger, getting better. And Izuku kind of continues to work on just honing his abilities, meditating, his striking, his ability to fight in general. He can't really fight with anybody, but he trains with very heavy equipment that was provided to him, luckily enough, and he trains with very, very heavy kind of items that would allow him to push his limits to a certain extent. He would even spar with some people, but he would have to wear massive amounts of weights to actually spar with them, at least to a fair extent. But hey man, it still works, and training is still training, and he's getting a lot of training in the meantime. Izuku would have a good time doing this. actually have a pretty decent time doing this. Now, it wouldn't be anything too crazy, I must admit, because let's be honest, Izuku's not really not gonna have a good match against anybody, like in general. So that's just the reality of it. He won't ever have or these people will never be on the level of Izuku Midoriya. But hey, that's all right. In which Izuku obviously would just get the most he possibly can out of this training, leading up to the very end, and the very end of what they all did. And that's what would happen. The whole forest training camp would be a success, and as they would head back on their buses, they would be hearing news stations going off, news stations that were happening, and they would actually arrive back at UA, and they would hear about some stuff that is happening. They don't know exactly what it is, but it seems like the heroes have found kind of like the arrival of a lot of different Nomus. And Nomus have been attacking periodically throughout this time. And eventually there would be a large siege, Nomu after Nomu, a ton of them beginning to arrive. But not only that, All For One would show his face and call to All Might himself, saying that he has been waiting and that All Might now needs to come out and show himself, and that it will be over once and for all. And of course, All Might would see this as a test, would see this as a challenge. Izuku would be seeing this as well, and he would tell All Might that this is serious, that he needs to allow him to fight alongside him, that they can guarantee this win, they can guarantee the safety of many. But of course, All Might says no, they can't do that. He doesn't have his hero license, he's not an official hero, he needs to not do that. That's insane. They can't be liable for something that could happen. In which Izuku tells him that this is serious. This right here is a possible situation where he can be felled, he can die, and the world can lose him forever. And of course, Izuku is trying to tell him like, hey, I can help you, but All Might denies it and heads off to take on All For One. Izuku would be standing there watching a TV, watching All Might fend off Nomus, but also fend off All For One himself. And initially, All Might is actually winning. Initially, All Might is taking on All For One and even defeating the Nomus one by one, knocking or even obliterating them with a punch, or at least a punch or two. As he defeats them, and as he's about to has the feeling of defeating All For One as well, he would wind up a United States of Smash. But as he does, he would feel a rumbling headed in a direction, and a rumbling that he'll remember forever. Because this rumbling comes from Gigantomachia, and All For One sees this as his chance, sees this as his only chance to get rid of All Might and get rid of a substantial portion of what this hero world in Japan is like. Gigantomachia charges at All Might and is about to grab onto him and slam him into the ground, but as he goes to actually punch All Might, his punch would just stop. His punch would just halt, and Izuku would be standing there midair holding the punch off. Izuku in a single blow would punch the face of Gigantomachia, sending him staggering backwards. Izuku tells All Might to finish All For One now, knock him out and be done with it. As he'll handle this big oaf, he flies into Gigantomachia's face, punching, kicking, and even basically pushes him over. Izuku continues his assault, shooting ki blasts out of his hands and shooting a massive blast out of both of his hands at the same time. Izuku would tell Gigantomachia that he has no place in this world, that he has no place in hero society, and it's time for the monster to sleep. And as he says this, flames would surround his fist as if it's this aura, a red aura that begins to expand, making the pressure all around them so much more substantial, and he would fly at Gigantomachia, landing a punch to his face, and it would send him spiraling straight to the ground. And as he would land this punch, All Might would land his United States of Smash, knocking All For One to the ground and knocking him out entirely. Izuku would land on Gigantomachia, who is completely out cold, and Izuku and All Might would raise their fists to the sky at the same time. The people who are currently recording watch as both All Might and Izuku have their fists pointed to the sky, and as they see this, well, All Might would point to Izuku, saying that he is next, that he is the one that they should be hoping for and the hero that the world truly needs. And basically a one-up from All Might, someone that can basically tell everybody how good of a person or good of a hero you truly can be. That is no joke, because when he immediately gives that praise to Izuku and everybody's watching, all of Japan, well, Izuku's life would change forever, because he would head back to school after the defeat of those villains and one of the biggest wins in hero history, and everybody would be clamoring. Everybody would be looking for him. Everybody would want to talk to him. Everybody would believe that this one right here, he deserves to be a hero already. That there is no way around it. He is hero material. He is next up, and he should be the one to lead them into the next generation. But a lot of other people are saying that he's still a kid, still a young person that needs to learn a ton of things, in which Izuku would even go on a bit of a presser with Aizawa and some other people like All Might, and he would tell them that he's still a student of this craft, and still a student that has a lot to learn. And he has teachers that can teach him. It doesn't matter if they're not as strong as him. It doesn't matter if they're, not to the level he is in terms of power. He still has a lot to learn and a lot to do, and that is the reality of it. And that is the choice that he's making. And he knows that a lot of people are pushing for this, and a lot of people are pushing for him to basically be a hero already. But he says that time is a lot, that there's a lot of time out there, and they have to be patient, very patient. But for now, he'll be looking forward to getting his provisional hero license. He'll be looking forward to becoming a part-time hero, and he'll look forward to his climb to being the number one. And hopefully he can exceed the expectations that many of these people have, exceed the expectations that even All Might would have himself. So Izuku Midoriya sets his sights on his provisional hero license exam, as the world, and also, mostly Japan, seems to be thinking that Izuku is next up and is truly the next true savior of Japan and hero society. But there's a lot to be said and a lot to deal with in the near future, because there's still a villain organization or a villain gang that is going to need to be dealt with, and it seems like Izuku Midoriya will still be a part of it all very, very soon. Provisional hero license, and then the Shie Hassaikai. That is what is next for Izuku Midoriya, but that is the end of part 3 of What If Deku Was Jiren's Reincarnation. Izuku Midoriya is now ready for his provisional hero license exam. But let's be honest, he is an absolute icon at this point. Famous borderline. When he arrives, everybody swarms him, asking for autographs, asking for this, asking for that. And the thing is, it's kind of unrivaled at this point, and everybody kind of knows that once they step foot on that field to take on everybody, that Izuku Midoriya is a no-go. Do not go near him, do not touch him, because you will lose. If you want to win and you want to get your provisional hero license, you have to stay away from him. And that is the bottom line, in which everybody realizes this pretty damn quickly, because Izuku would be standing there and the aura he has itself is intense. So intense that people question how his powers even truly work. And well, as he's easily going to get through this first portion of the exam, Aizawa's currently sitting on top with Miss Joke, or sitting on top of the bleachers with Miss Joke, and telling her exactly what Izuku is. Now, he's explaining that Izuku is a great fighter, great warrior, even a future great hero. His power is intense and it almost feels daunting, But the thing is, there's no wasted movement with this kid. Everything has intention. Everything has a purpose. It's as if he has perfect control over his entire body and mind. It's as if every single move he does is in perfect unison with everything around him. That's what truly makes him powerful. All Might, when he punches, when he does all these other things, he winds up, he does this, he does that. No, but Izuku, there is no wasted motion, not a single ounce. He knows what he's going to do before he even does it. Izuku feels like he is just a man amongst boys at all times, even when you include the teachers and these other pro heroes, even face to face with All Might himself. There's a reason why Izuku could go straight head to head with All Might. And of course, Ms. Joke is shocked to hear this, head to head with All Might, in which Aizawa would nod and say, not just that, the kid defeated him, and easily at that. In which, of course, she's shocked to hear this, staring at him. But as she's staring at him, Izuku's already walking away. Izuku already finished with that portion of the Provisional Hero License exam and is done and walking to the lobby room. And as he awaits the next part, everybody wonders, what happened to him? Where's he at? But of course, he's already passed on through, and the rescue portion is the up-and-coming portion that he now has to be prepared for. And soon, it would be obvious that even with a rescue portion, even with a quote-unquote what would have been a hurdle for Izuku, it is no hurdle. Not even close. Izuku has been, or was working with Gran Torino, and begins to kind of understand the concept of rescue, a lot more, and he now knows the purpose of it all. And as he's basically sitting there waiting for everybody to pass on through, he plans kind of in his head what he wants to do and how he wants to approach things. And when they would enter that city, to save a bunch of people, Izuku would be flying around in an instant, just scouting out the area, looking for potential people that need saving, helping them out, and just doing what he can. And he doesn't really say much, but he tries to be somewhat comforting, but he's not very good at all that. And initially, a lot of these people that are getting rescued are saying, well, you know, he could have been more friendly, he could have been nicer, he could have been more homey, he could have been warmer, and it's no disagreement there. Izuku is not the nicest person in the world, but as the scores are racking up and he's you know, teetering between pass and failure, Izuku shows exactly why being a hero is in the cards for him, and being a hero is the only pathway to power for Izuku Midoriya. Because Gang Orca comes out with a bunch of fake villains, and Izuku stands there in front of Gang Orca, a top tier hero, a top 15 to top 10 hero, and he goes to fight him. Head to head, Izuku clashes with Gang Orca, but every movement he makes, he sweeps Gang Orca, slams him, and quickly knocks out a ton of the fake villains, or at least subdues them to a large extent, to the point where he has Gang Orca on his face and pinned to the ground with capture tape surrounding him entirely. Izuku Midoriya puts his knee in Gang Orca's back and tells him not to move, and soon everybody is watching in complete and utter awe. How the heck did he do that? How did he do that so quickly? And how was he capable of doing that to the degree he did? It's an insane thing to even think about, insane idea to even think about. But Izuku has showed that even a top tier hero doesn't stand a chance when they go one-on-one, or even if they go one-on-one on many, which that's what happened. It was a bunch of people, including Gang Orca, versus Izuku, and it did not matter one freaking bit. Everyone who is watching, everybody who is just even participating, after it all said and done, all of them want to talk to Izuku. All of them want to speak with Izuku. And Izuku tries his best to communicate, tries his best to talk to them, but frankly, he doesn't really matter. He thinks that it's kind of whatever. In which he kind of says that he did what he had to do, he did what he believed to be the best course of action, blah blah blah, and it's kind of a boring statement, but Izuku isn't All Might. He's not going to give this glamorous and giant hoorah of a statement. That's just not who he is. On top of that, not many people have seen a first year get attention the way Izuku is getting attention. Izuku's attention's on a totally different level, and they're talking about making a full-time hero, and he hasn't even gone through all of his years of high school yet. This is somebody who is entered into UA as a first year and is outshining even third years, in which he'll be able to talk to some of the strongest third years, actually 3 of them known as the Big 3, very soon. Because in a class, or in the classroom, the Big 3 would meet them. Now initially, you have Tamaki who tries to talk to them, but he doesn't do it very well. Nejire begins to fangirl just a good little bit about Izuku and about this and about, is it true that he can do this and do that? And everybody's sitting there like, dang, this girl is really obsessed with Izuku to a large extent, in which Izuku kind of just sits there and is like, oh, okay, like this is very awkward. But of course, Mirio jumps in and says, look, this is what I want to show you. This is what we're going to do, because I'm going to have everyone here fight me. In which, of course, Izuku's like, whoa, that's interesting. Like, this guy, hey, he's got something going. That's some confidence right there. And he respects somebody that can come out and want to basically show their true power and show what they're truly capable of. Like, that is respect. That is something that Izuku acknowledges very heavily. But, of course, Aizawa tells him that he can't be a part of this fight. That he can't be, it doesn't make sense. And we all know what would happen if he is a part of this fight. So, Mirio proceeds to take down the entirety of Class 1A, excluding Izuku Midoriya. But Mirio does call him out for a bit of a sparring session as a one-on-one, in which Mirio believes this would put him at better odds. But the fact that he did beat All Might in a technicality, maybe it's not going to be the most fair of a fight in general anyways. But they do fight for a little bit, and Izuku is pretty amused by the quirk that he utilizes. But he can also tell that there's something else underlying within Mirio. That there's a different type of strength and a different type of power. He's not 100% sure what it is, but it feels very similar to even All Might himself, but even stronger. With the combination of permeation, but also All Might's quirk by the name of One For All that Izuku technically doesn't know about. But he does see the potential that Mirio has, even so larger potential than maybe even him in this hero society. Because Izuku knows that Mirio is his whole smile, his whole persona will fit perfectly into the world that they're standing in. But in terms of, well, Izuku, he's powerful, he's strong, and he can do all of these things a lot better than everyone else. But he's not as happy, he's not as go-lucky, he's not All Might, he's not Mirio. And he understands that, and that's fine, but he's more quick and serious and more to the point. And all of these things are important as well. Being quick to the point and also quick to save people is a very important skill on top of it all. This would lead them to having a conversation. Both him and Mirio have a conversation about work studies and so on and so forth. And they do have that conversation, and it leads up to more or less them actually teaming up and going to Sir Night-Eye's agency. Now, Sir Night-Eye does and is excited to have Izuku on board, especially because he feels that he needs someone extremely powerful to make sure that this whole overhaul situation gets settled and settled quickly. And that's exactly what Izuku is going to do. He believes that he can take down Overhaul very quickly, but of course, to get some camaraderie and some, you know, the chemistry going, him and Mirio do go on a couple patrols. But what they didn't know would happen is that one of the first patrols that they would go on as a team, they would be confronted by Overhaul himself. But not just that, a little girl would come running, and Izuku's instincts would kick in almost instantly. Seeing the little girl cower in his arms, he would pick her up and look at Overhaul dead in his eyes. And as he does, well, immediately Izuku attacks. Not to the point, or not to the way that you think he would attack. He actually attacks in a completely different way. He's able to freeze Overhaul entirely. It's as if the aura and pressure around him itself squeezes Overhaul to the point that he can't move a single muscle. Overhaul panics. His eyes begin to kind of blink rapidly, and he tries to do anything he possibly can. Reach for the ground, reach for Izuku, reach for anybody, reach for something, but Izuku doesn't allow him to move a single inch, landing a punch to his gut and then a chop to his neck, knocking him out entirely. Yes, Overhaul, the leader of the Shie Hassaikai, felled in 2 blows. Just 2 hits in general. Stomach to the back of the neck, and it was over. Just like that. Overhaul's never felt the pressure that Izuku exerts, has never felt this power that anybody has ever exerted. He's watched All Might fight and smash through buildings itself, but this power that Izuku showed made him tremble like a little child, like somebody who was watching a scary movie for the very first time, not understanding that what they're watching isn't even real. This is his boogeyman. This is the person that terrifies him. Someone stoic, someone that doesn't even flinch, and someone that has no problem getting rid of the issue as soon as possible. In which Izuku does just that, capturing Overhaul, saving Eri, but also getting the news of where the Shie Hassaikai base is. Now, I will say Sir Night-Eye decides that they probably won't need him for this, and they will have him there just in case, but they probably won't need him for it, so he should, get ready and get prepped for other things and learn about different things as well. And of course, they actually didn't need his help necessarily, having plenty of help on the way, and with the absence of Overhaul, and also the absence of preparation for Overhaul, this Shie Hassaikai base was taken down in mere moments. In a matter of one foul swoop, they're cleared out, handled, and it's basically expelled entirely. And a lot of these villains that are within the Shie Hassaikai base are kind of defeated based on a surprise. They're defeated based on not knowing what was happening truly at that moment, and they were, boom, done. And that's the truth of it. Izuku was able to set up an invasion of the Shie Hassaikai base, and set up this invasion very, very easily, because of the early defeat of Overhaul and the early kind of finish of what had occurred in general. Now, with that said, Izuku continues his preparation into being that hero that he seeks out to be. And through this preparation is a lot of training. This training would include dealing with or handling kind of a regimen with his own classmates, with his own classmates at that, being that of the battle between Class 1A and Class 1B. Now, for starters, this is a picture perfect moment, a moment that Izuku is happy to have, but in all honesty, he really shouldn't be a part of this fight at all. His strength is overwhelming, and frankly, he is just that much stronger than everybody else that is currently there. But there's some enjoyment in battling alongside his classmates. There is enjoyment in fighting alongside the people he's been studying and working with all of this time. But here's the thing. Izuku defeats the team that he goes against, and they would even decide to have a whole Class 1B versus Izuku Midoriya, and they would have the challenge, and the challenge would ensue, and the challenge would be simple. Izuku's strength would be overwhelming, and all they would know is that he is quirkless. But like I said before, his power goes beyond just the limit, or beyond the limitations of just a quirk, and just something as simple as power versus power. Izuku Midoriya is truly the future of this world, and as his years would go by throughout schooling, as he would go through rigorous amounts of training, and as he would gain the kind of motivation, and on top of that, the true skills as a hero, he would make for an amazing replacement of All Might himself. But he wouldn't stand on top of that podium alone, because the person that is actually the number one hero standing next to him may be weaker than him, but he still learned to have the smile on his face. Mirio Togata still becomes the number one hero with Izuku standing next to him, believing that he, even as powerful as he is, he, even with all the might in the world, still needs to learn what being a true hero is about, because it's not about being a true warrior. Being a true hero is what really matters. And being a true hero means saving everybody with a smile. But Izuku Midoriya's hero journey, well, it doesn't end here with the story. But this is where the story will come to its end. And if you enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. Hope you guys enjoyed What If Deku Was Jiren's Reincarnation. And I hope all y'all basically enjoyed the video. And I hope you guys add some support to the video as well. Helps the channel. All that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.